Hello and welcome to another episode of Wes Quick Reviews. I'm knocking it down. Instead of doing 4, I think we're gonna do 3. The reason for this is just because it's been lengthy. I think waiting. Some of this stuff I've seen over a month ago, and it's like, well, I need to actually be able to put these out closer to when I watch them. So I think we're gonna go down to 3, which means I'm gonna do one less than I planned. I'm just starting at 3 now, even though I have 4. I'm doing 3. Okay. The first thing we're gonna start with is a show that's been airing for a while. It was actually airing alongside Willow on Disney Plus for a long period of time, and it's a show called National Treasure: Edge of History. The first thing to say about this show is that, it's just a bizarre. They decided to do a National Treasure show, without Nicolas Cage for some reason. It's just a bizarre idea. I mean, who cares? How many people are actually watching this show? I wonder. But it's if you have a Disney Plus account, it's the only thing currently airing other than Bad Batch season 2. I mean, like I said, it was airing alongside Willow, so you could have been watching Willow. But what the heck else was airing? I don't know, on Disney Plus. But it's, top billing. They've got the National Treasure IP, so I guess they decided they were gonna do something with it. This show is mostly, I'm just gonna say it's okay. I don't want to say it's great or anything, because I don't really think it is great or anything. I mean, I think the actors did a decent job. I think it's acted pretty well. But it has a very passing association with National Treasure as a franchise. I mean, first of all, who even cares about National Treasure was a series of 2 movies that came out in the 2000s, and I'll say I barely remember them, even though I've seen both of them. They're okay movies. They're decent movies, I guess, but I don't care. Who's asking for a new National Treasure in 2023? I don't really get it. It's if you're gonna do a National Treasure show, you gotta at least have Nicolas Cage, right? Or else what else is it? So I think what they boiled down National Treasure to was riddles and puzzles and history, and that's it. Most of this show I find to be pretty dull. I think only really the last episode was interesting, because they go into they actually go into a tomb or something. I feel the big problem with the show is it needed a lot more budget, because I kept thinking what could make this show cooler, and I was thinking locations, just locations would have been good. Imagine a fight scene at the on the Grand Canyon or something, or they go to Mount Rush. You can see Mount Rushmore in the background, and they're doing something there. I don't know, just American places. And the places that they do go to are just really it's not so much the place itself that's interesting, but more so what happens there, which makes it a really terrible set piece. For example, they go to Elvis's house. That's one of the things that they go to. They solve a riddle, and they're oh, this riddle's associated with Elvis, and we got to go to his house. And so they got to go into a secret, a secret vault within Gracetown, within Elvis's house, which actually is a place I've been to. Weirdly, I've been there. Don't remember it. It was during a period of time where I had a concussion shortly after, a few weeks later. I think that was one of the memories I lost, because I just barely remember that place at all. I just remember that I've been there. And I feel it looked probably like that. It just looks like a place. It looks like a house. There's a lot of Elvis stuff all over the walls, which they didn't even I feel show a lot of that. They basically just filmed in the lobby with a bunch of people around, and there's a guitar and a glass case. It just feels kind of kind of wasted. It's just like not actually an interesting location. I don't know if it was actually the place, is what I'm saying, first of all. But then second of all, it's not actually like an interesting backdrop, it's just like a house. And then most of it is this like vault, which I don't know if that's even a real thing in the house. But there's that. There's like a church, which I don't even remember where this church was. It was some nunnery with a bunch of nuns around, and they play like an old organ. The third place I remember is the Alamo. They go to the Alamo, but again, the Alamo is a very uninteresting place. It's just like something interesting happened there, but like again, it just like feels. They show Alamo reenactors, and it just doesn't like feel interesting enough. But I'm like, I feel like they maybe just didn't put enough budget into the show, because it's like if you're Disney, like you could do crazy stuff with this, right? Like you could do something cool, and then it would be like memorable. But no, they didn't do any of that. It's just boring places. So the characters in this are okay. I mean, I don't think any of them really stood out all that much. They're kind of forgettable. I'm just gonna say it. It's weird because they're set up to be these college students that are like really good at solving puzzles, I guess. In the first episode, like they start us in like an escape room, and they try to sell this escape room by, oh, nobody solved the escape room. But then like when we see them solve the escape room, it's like the dumbest solution ever. It's like they get like a thing, they unscrew like a pipe, and then they put it in a sock for some reason and start whipping it around the wall to hit a switch. And it's like, but like you could have put anything in the sock, really. I don't know if you even needed the sock. Like, did you need to find the sock? Did you need to find this thing and realize you needed to put it in the sock? And I'm pretty sure, I might be remembering wrong, but they use like a tool to like unscrew this thing from the drain. And it's like, why not just put the tool in the sock? It's just dumb. And then that releases the prison. So I suppose we're supposed to assume there was a lot of complicated stuff before they got in the cell, and they like solved all these crazy puzzles. But that's like all we see them do. And then they have to enter a code in the door, and they just barely get out on time. So maybe I'm just gonna say it doesn't look like that hard in an escape room, and I'm not like sold on these college students being like crazy good puzzle solvers just from that scene alone. They get the code from like writing on the wall, and then she has to like do this math really quickly because she didn't do it before, and they just barely like the whole escape room was like 10 seconds long. They had to solve everything in like 10 seconds, I guess. It was just a silly way to start it, I think, because it doesn't really do a great job of like selling you on the fact that you need to believe these characters are just really good puzzle solvers and better than almost everybody in the world. Throughout this series, they establish that many people have tried to solve this, have tried to find this treasure, and all of them have failed. But these four kids are smarter than everybody else. Even this, the bad guy, the villain that's introduced, she is like super rich and also really smart as well. And even with all these resources, she's a whole like staff of people, hackers and just general experts in fields, like going through these clues and trying to solve them, and they solve them wrong every time. They'll like solve them wrong, and the main girl will like come up with a completely different solution. She's like, well, that's obviously the most obvious solution, but if you read it this way, obviously it's referring to Elvis Presley. Like there's a clue about like a snake, and they're like, oh, this obviously refers to Sacagawea and not anything like I don't know. There's another thing is the clues are dumb. They're just dumb, and I don't believe like they take a genius to solve. Some of them are super dumb. They're like, I wish I saved some of the clips, because there was one clip in particular where the puzzle solution was like so obvious, and like when they said it out loud, I was like that is just dumb. That is just not a good solution to a puzzle. It's just I'm just not like super impressed by the show. The characters, like I said, I think the actors are fine. I think they do a decent job, but like the way they're written is kind of uninteresting. There's four of them. Here's another thing I want to mention. You've got 4 college students, and they're only shown to have a job at, like, one point, and she gets fired at the beginning from her job. The main girl works for a storage company, and then she gets fired. And it's like, they're, okay. Like, they're living in these, like, expensive flats, and, like, how are they making the money? They're in college. Like, they just come from riches? But then, like, the main girl is she's an illegal immigrant, and her parents are, spoilers, but her mother is dead. Her father is assumedly dead, but is revealed to not be dead later on. So she's not getting any money from them, so it's like, where's this money coming from? Is, like, her, roommate paying for the whole thing? I don't know. I thought about it. I'm like, I don't buy this. I was poor when I was in college. And my parents weren't, like, sending me much money. I don't think they were sending me any money. I had to work a small job, and I got paid very little. I could not afford a flat like that in college. I'm just going to say it. And they're in Indiana, I think, in, like, the middle of a town. Who knows? I don't know. But the main girl, her talent, I guess, is her historical background. And also the fact that she's just very conveniently associated with all of these, with this treasure. There's her roommate, who is I don't like the character trope of just, like, a hacker who's, like, she's really good with tech, but she's, like, a weird character because she never really talks about tech or anything. She's, like, otherwise she's, like, an activist or something is mainly what she talks about. But then she just, like, pulls out computers and, like, hacks into prisons and stuff. And I'm like, she pulls out, like, a laptop. I'm like, you don't have the equipment. Like, you're a college student, man. Why would you have the equipment to, like, just easily hack into stuff? And I've disabled their entire alarm system. Like, it's always so dumb, man. It's always, it's like, I'm sorry. I'm not, it's like, I can't, obviously I shouldn't take the show this seriously because it's not supposed to be taken this seriously probably, but whatever, it's dumb, so I'm just gonna say that it's dumb. Then there's the two dudes who are also roommates. One of them is just kind of like the kind, caring dude that, like, used to be in a relationship, or no, was never in a relationship with the main girl. In fact, they allude to this in the very first episode where okay. The other two, so his roommate, I don't remember anybody's name. Sorry. The other two, so his roommate is the other friend, is the fourth friend. He loves shoes. That's his thing. He loves shoes, and he follows a lot of people online because he likes shoes a lot. And he weirdly comes up with, like, 2 solutions just out of nowhere. And solves 2 puzzles, and it's like, you're not established to just have this random information. Like there's an episode, the prison episode, which is really funny. We'll talk about the prison episode, but he, like, comes up with this solution. He's like, only recently they had to update the Mexican prisons to up to a code, so their sewer system or whatever. So, like, you could probably sneak in through the sewer system. It's like, why do you know that? Like, it's just like a random, like, Deus Ex Machina in a way of just this guy's the one that came up with the solution this time. It's like, why does he know that? I don't know. Like, he's established to be kind of the dumb one as well, because in the escape room, they actually don't win the escape room because he's dumb and he pulls out his phone right as they open the door, and then they get disqualified because he's not allowed to use his phone. So, and they're not, like, mad. I feel like they should have been more mad at him than they were in that moment, because that would have been, like, a big cool thing. They're, like, the only ones to finish this escape room. They get disqualified, and they're like, whoops. Oh, you. Oh, you and your silly antics. But yeah, so the kind, caring guy, right. Okay, right. So I was going to mention, so he was never in a relationship with the main girl, because the other 2 are in a relationship, and it's, like, awkward because they're friends and they hang out all the time, and she's like, and so they're, like, being cute and flirty with each other in the escape room, And so the main girl's like, aren't you glad we never got together? And he's like awkwardly like, yeah, it's totally. And I'm like, I just wonder why they didn't get to, like, why didn't they get together? Like, this seems dumb. Your friends got together, and you like don't really have a good reason for not getting together. You just didn't. So it's this weird, awkward plot line throughout the whole thing where she then kind of gets a little jealous of him because he gets a girlfriend, and she's like, oh, and it's like you're not allowed to be jealous. That's kind of like you clearly are the one like keeping you two from being in a relationship. So you're not the one that gets to be jealous. It's just weird. It's like, why you have no good reason for not dating him. You clearly wanted to, and he clearly wanted to date you, and it never happened. And so it's like weird that I don't get that. I don't understand it. Like, whose side am I supposed to be on? Like, I don't understand, man. But that leads to a whole, love triangle square thing where he's in the relationship with this new girl, who is barely in this. She's in this for like a couple episodes, and then they break up, because she's like, oh, you're still obsessed with that other girl. And she starts dating this guy named Liam, who Liam is actually tied. He's the only name I remember. I'm just realizing. I only remember Liam's name. Liam is like the grandson of the eccentric guy from the first movie. Like I said, I don't remember the movies all that well either. I thought about rewatching them, but I didn't. So he's like the guy that gave Nicolas Cage. He's like a mason. And he gives him this like treasure to solve. He's like, oh, solve it. And now he's got this one treasure left, and nobody's solved it. And he wanted to give it to his grandson Liam, but Liam's like, no, it's stupid. You're making stuff up. And so he didn't do it. And then this girl shows up, and she decides to do it. It's more clear to her that it is a real thing. And then she meets Liam to ask him about stuff, because obviously he knows a little bit more about like the history of this guy and his treasure hunts and stuff. So obviously he passes away, the old man. He's only in the first episode, and then they write him out. It actually is revealed, again, another spoiler, that he was murdered. And yeah, so Liam decides to join in on this treasure hunt because he thinks the main girl is really hot, and he really wants to get with her, and that's why he decides to join in. And it leads to this love square where like it's also kind of awkwardly written because they go to this guy's like banquet with a bunch of rich people because they need to get information there or something. I don't even remember why. There was something they were doing there. And they're the like new guy, the new girlfriend, right? And Liam are like learn that the main girl and the guy that she never dated, the main girl and the new guy and the guy that never got together, right? Those two, the main characters, they learned that they had like this elaborate dance routine at like their prom. They went to prom together and they had this elaborate dance, and everyone was so impressed, and the other friends would like bring it up, and they're like, oh, you remember that? You should do the dance. And then at first the new the new boyfriend and the new girlfriend are like, yeah, you guys should do the dance. And then they start doing the dance, and they're clearly having a great time doing the dance. And it's this like classic Disney moment where they go out into onto the dance floor, and everybody moves out of the way, and they create a circle for these two to do their dance routine. It's like, this would never happen in real life. It's like very, very Disney. And then the new girlfriend gets jealous, and then she leaves, and Liam gets jealous, but then he also leaves, but then she thinks he like leaves forever. But he ends up like getting kidnapped and attempted murder on his life. It's this whole thing. So I guess maybe he wasn't like it just kind of drops it, but he seems like he was jealous also. But it's like, why are you guys jealous? You like told them it was okay to do this. Like it's kind of an asshole move to like allow them to like do a dance that they did together at their prom. When it's a date when you go into prom together. That's a date, right? So it's gonna be like it's a dance. What do you expect? It's gonna be like. I don't know. Like, what do they expect? I don't know. They shouldn't be happy about it. You dance together. I think it's gonna be cool, but you're not allowed to like it at all. They just have to be miserable while they dance. It's just silly. I don't know. It's just dumb. I want to go back to basically how she comes across this treasure, because it's treated throughout this like she has this connection to the treasure. For example, let me tell you. Her medallion that she wears is part of it indicates her as a member of the original group of indigenous people, I believe, that protected this treasure. And this is a medallion that she got from her father. And her father was also on the original expedition with the main bad guy in this, who goes by Salazar, I suppose. Went on an expedition with her parents, and they were searching for this treasure, and they never found it. So she has like this association with the treasure, but the way she comes across it is that she works in the storage company, right? And her boss assigns her this storage container, and he says, "Here, figure out who owns this, because the person hasn't like been here in like 20 years." And so she does this thing. She looks through it, and basically, in order to find it, this is another thing that like kind of falls apart as like terms of in establishing her genius, because she basically just finds like a Mason symbol, and she finds a like large flag that she determines would have been used for like a veteran's funeral, and so she cross-references like veterans with Masons living in Indiana, and somehow gets one result, and it leads to that guy from the original movies, and that's how she meets him, and he gives her this treasure hunt. But it's like, this is a completely random series of events that she just kind of stumbled across because she worked for this storage company. So like, was I just supposed to forget that that's how that happened? Because then it's like an enormously weird coincidence that she's so connected to the treasure. It's just like anybody could have been working for that storage. Like, it's not like there was any reason it was her working there, or that she was the one to figure this out. And I guess that was supposed to be a puzzle that he set up to like find a genius that will be able to find this treasure. But like, it's not really that good it's like not a puzzle. It's like just dumb. It's like you just put a fake name, and she just looked through it, and she's like, it's probably like a dude like this, I guess. It's like there weren't clues. It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I'll try to like wrap this up. I wanted to talk about the prison episode specifically. I think that was probably some of the better stuff. Maybe it was just the heists were kind of fun at times, like the like how they were breaking it. There was a little bit of tension when they were like breaking into Elvis's home, and the dude has to like play a song in the lobby to distract everybody while she sneaks into the back room past security. And then she figures out that the record, there's a fake like gold record in there that wasn't like an actual thing that went gold, and then she plays it and it's a clue. And they're trying to find these like orbs, and then these orbs like lead to the treasure. Or they might be square. They might be like cubes. I think they're cubes actually. And she has to find like 3 or 4 of them. I don't really know what was going on, honestly. I wasn't like following it super closely. Like I said, I was watching other stuff at the time, so it's like every time this came back, I was like, oh, I totally forgot what happened last episode. I'm like, oh yeah, they have another cube now, I guess. Maybe this is why I'm bad at reviewing stuff. But here I am, reviewing stuff. Yeah, and I kind of, I guess, liked the you know, childish naughtiness of going. They sneak in behind like a tour group into the church, and then they just stay behind while the tour group moves on, and then they sneak beyond the ropes and start playing this really old organ. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of like, man, that's always one of those things you like imagine as a kid, or like even now, you know, I go on a tour groups and it's like, you can't go on, you can't touch anything, you know, and you're always like, but what if I did though? But what if I did? What if I got beyond the ropes and I touched it and I played the organ? I'd get in so much trouble. But it's like, I don't know. There's a little bit of something there that is kind of exciting, I guess. I don't know. But I want to also talk about that scene because, like, what they have to do is play a specific song, and they're playing it literally by ear, and she adds all this flourish to it, and it's like, you know, as a person that like knows how music works, it's like, are you sure you're even playing the right key? Like, is it dependent on it? Like, if the puzzle, I think it would have to work. Like, you have to play the melody specifically perfectly, I would think. And it's just like hard to just do that. And it's weird that they just have this ability to do that. It's actually a combined ability because it's the one dude, the nice, sweet, potentially ex-boyfriend that never was actually her ex-boyfriend. This guy is able to like recall the song perfectly by memory, and then he starts like humming it, and and her roommate, the activist hacker, is able to like transpose that perfectly to the organ, I guess. But she's like adding extra stuff, you know, like adding chords and stuff to like complete it. She's not just playing the notes of the melody. So it's like, I don't really get this one. How did this work exactly? You know, it's just like, it just like somehow worked, and they got the thing that they were looking for. But then there's the third thing I wanted to talk about, which is the prison break, which is the most ridiculous episode. They sneak into Mexico. Well, they don't. They drive into Mexico, I guess. But then they decide that they have to break her father out of prison. So they're like, we're going to have to break into the prison and get him out. And it's just like, that is such a, like, I struggled when I heard them say that, because I'm like, this doesn't feel, it feels like too ridiculous for this show, where it's like they're doing very like, you know, low-key sort of like things where it's like, I snuck behind ropes to like play an organ I wasn't supposed to play, and now they're like, we're gonna break into a prison now and break my father out of prison. And it's like, that's a little too like much for you guys. I think it's a little too far. And they're like, oh, this is a good idea. And only the shoe guy is the only one that's like, no, you guys are crazy, that's dumb. But then he ends up telling them exactly how to do it perfectly before he leaves, and then they do it. They do sneak into a prison. But there is this dumb scene where, like, to get out, they have to basically go across, like, a sniper yard. She has to, like, run across a yard in order to, like, cut through the fence. And there's, like, a sniper. So she has to, like, run across, and the dad stays back and, like, starts flashing he's got a piece of a mirror and starts flashing the sun in the sniper's eyes. This is, like, singularly, I think, one of the dumber things in the whole thing, because it's just, like, he waits just before the guy's going to shoot and then flashes the mirror, and the guy's like, oh, and then he misses. And he does this like several times. The sniper doesn't like think to do anything else but just keep trying and keep getting light in his eyes and missing. And then the sniper turns and he's about to shoot at the dad. And for some reason, the dad just like, I mean, he shoots a bullet, it hits the wall, and then he drops the piece of mirror. And then the dad just, like, drops to his knees, all right. It's this dramatic moment, like, he's gonna die. Like, he's just allowing himself to get shot. But I'm like, why? Like, why not just run back behind the wall that's right next to you? Like, at least try to not get killed here. But he's like, no, I'm gonna drop to my knees. You get out. But it's like, Another thing is, like, what was their plan in the first? Like, his plan was stupid because he's like, this is a plan I came up with, but we need 2 people to do it. And the plan is that he gets somebody to run over, cut the fence, like I said, and he stays behind and just flashes the mirror in the guy's eyes. But it's like, then how are you going to escape? Like, this was how it was going to happen the whole time. It's like, how are you going to get across? Like, why? And like, you're, you know what I mean? It's like the one person that's cutting the fence has made it across because of the distraction. And like, what, you're expecting to somehow get across? Like, what, are you going to run while flashing the thing at the sniper's eyes? Like, what was the plan? The plan is dumb. There's a lot of, like, just dumb ideas in this that made it really disappointing. It's like, I think maybe just having cool puzzles and riddles would have been epic, but, like, they just didn't really, like, achieve that. The set pieces weren't spectacular. They didn't have Nicolas Cage. That's it. Final episode. There's an FBI agent that's, like, working. She's a pretty likable character. I think she was probably my favorite character throughout this because she's, like, you know, trying to do the right thing, and she gets this information, and she's like, but they're probably not the bad guys, even though every clue I'm getting is, like, trying to, they're, like, man, there was a whole scene where they did, like, they called it a deep fake of their voices, of the kids' voices, like, admitting to a crime, to the crime, and she's like, I just don't believe this, though. They basically, because Liam tells her, no, it can't be her, because she would never make an English error. She makes, like, a grammatical error when she's speaking. And she's like, you're right, she wouldn't make a grammatical error. Yeah, she was cool. I did like kind of did I like it? I was going to say I liked the twist that her, like, the FBI agent's, like, boss is Salazar. I don't know if I really liked it that much, but I thought it made the character cooler. Because otherwise he was just kind of like a normal dude. But I don't know. I don't know if it was, like, a great twist or anything. It's like, it made sense, I mean, when they revealed it. But it's also, that's another thing, she figures out that it's him basically because she finds, like, an orange dye at one of the crime scenes, and she starts dating this guy, and the guy, as, like, a fun gift for her, makes her, like, a bouquet with wrappers from everything that has that specific dye in it. And he's like, this is a cute gift. He thinks that's a cute gift for a first date. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe it is a cute gift, but it's like, I don't know. That's just kind of a weird thing, I feel like. If somebody was like, here, I know you love your job, so I created something very specific to your work. Clearly, in your off time, you just want something related to your work that you love so much. I don't know. It's not. It just doesn't feel. I don't know. I'm willing to look past it, but I did think it was kind of silly. And she's like, "This is the greatest gift I've ever gotten. It's the most thoughtful gift ever." And then she thinks back on, and she realizes that one of the things in the bouquet was an empty box of Tic Tacs. And then she realizes that the FBI agent is always eating orange Tic Tacs. And that makes her certain that he must be the guy that is at all these scenes that is, like, messing with the evidence. She's like, oh, he's a turncoat. He's a bad guy. But it's like, you would think, like, that's barely anything to, like, be certain of that. It could just be a weird coincidence that he also just eats orange Tic Tacs all the time. You know? It's like, there's no guarantee that, like, he's the guy. It's just, like, a very, very, like, nothing. It's nothing. And it because of her actions that are so extreme, like, she points a gun at him, like, her boss, she points a gun at him and then handcuffs him. And it's like, bro, if you're wrong about this, like, that was like, you went too far. That's not even disbarment. I mean, I don't even know what would happen to you if you did something like that and you were wrong about it, you know? I just thought that was a little dumb as well. Yeah, the last episode's kind of okay. I mean, they do like some puzzles in the tomb, which is kind of interesting, I guess. I liked that was probably the only like location that I found to be like rather interesting was like this swampy woods. They're like sailing a boat through the swampy woods, and I'm like, should have done more of this stuff. Probably would have helped the show be a little bit better, or more interesting to watch. But that's about it. I mean, all I can say about it is it's an okay show. It's like not good. It's not great. It's not even really good. And I think it fails in a lot of the things that it's attempting to do, unfortunately. And I mean, if they got a season 2, which I think they're planning a season 2, it ends on a cliffhanger. Not really a cliffhanger, but like something to move forward with. Like maybe they could do better. I don't know if the show is going to do well enough. I don't know if enough people were watching it. I don't know who the show was for. Like who's really nostalgic about National Treasure of all things. It's like who cares? Who would have watched this? I don't know. I watched it for some reason. But they're also planning a National Treasure 3, which I don't know if they're going to I feel like if they make a National Treasure 3 and they reuse actors from the original 2, like they've already forwarded some of these actors. There's also like the author friend that appears for like an episode in this as like a cameo appearance and helps them with a puzzle. But like, the main like FBI, I think he was an FBI agent guy, that gives her the clue, he passed away in the show. So that's like a canonical thing now. If they can't bring him back in National Treasure 3 unless they just are like, yeah, but that didn't matter. That was just a other thing. But then if it was like another thing, what was the point of it? Like, why even make it? If you're planning National Treasure 3 and you're making like a series before, like it's got to like have some impact. Maybe they're doing a cinematic universe where the girl is going to now appear in the National Treasure 3, like sort of a Miss Marvel in the Marvels situation. I don't know. I don't know. Is this show worth your time? If you have nothing better to watch, maybe you could watch National Treasure: Edge of History. It's not the worst show I've ever seen, but it's just kind of like okay, mostly. Moving on. The next thing I want to talk about, this is kind of a big one, and it's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Finally came to Disney Plus. I didn't go see it in theaters. I thought about it. I tried to get some friends to go, but a lot of my friends didn't. I don't really know anybody that cares about Marvel anymore. Like, it's hard for me to get people to go see MCU films because nobody cares, which I think is very telling. And this is the last movie in Phase 5, interestingly. And so I think with Phase 5, they needed to really, like, do something interesting because I feel the same way. Like, I feel like I don't really care anymore either since like Endgame. I didn't even like Endgame that much. I liked Infinity War. I thought Endgame was kind of dumb how it all came together. It seemed like they didn't really have a good plan for that, and they just threw a bunch of stuff together and they're like, oh, people will be okay with this. Yeah, but I'm like, they need to like do something to make us care again, make people care. Like, oh no, wait, it's still gonna be good. It's still gonna get better. But Phase 5 spent a lot of time doing setup and not a lot of time in actually having decent movies. I think, like, out of all of these, the only one I really liked, I think, was Spider-Man No Way Home. It was the only one that was good. I loved that one. The rest of them, I just didn't care. I will say I didn't hate Black Widow as much as everybody else. Everybody else hated Black Widow, but I actually liked that one. I thought that one was halfway decent. I liked the characters, the new characters, and I liked when they, the sort of, outside of the action sequences, the sort of relationships between the characters that are established. And I thought that was really fun and cute. And yeah, sure, the action sequences were like a little overdone, and people were like, oh, who cares? They always do these. They're always like devolve into action at the end. I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't mind it that much because the movie wasn't that bad. I thought the movie was all right. It was enjoyable. I had a good time watching that one. So I wouldn't say that one sucks out of all of them. But the rest of them, Eternals was not good, too long. Just not interesting. And there was, maybe I'm going out of order here. I don't know. There's Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, which was okay. Again, I liked some of the Scarlet Witch sequences. Everything else about it, I didn't much care for. Then there's Thor: Love and Thunder, which feels very much similar to this movie, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. In that there's too many things going on all at the same time, and they're trying to like juggle 3 plots all at once, and it just feels like a mess. It feels like a mess of a movie. Like, just do less, Why do we need to have like the plot line of Gore the God Butcher alongside the plot line of Jane Foster alongside the plot line of, I don't know, whatever else if you want to throw in there. Yeah, I'm not reviewing that one, but not right now. We're past that point. I'm doing newer stuff, so we're doing Black Panther 2 instead. But yeah, it felt very similar, where Black Panther 2 feels like they're trying to do too much at the same time. They're doing Black Panther. There's got to be a new Black Panther, right? That's one plot line. They're doing Namor, the Submariner, and his like city under the ocean. They're doing that. That's plotline 2. Plotline 3 is Ironheart, Riri Williams. They're doing that as well. Plotline 3. If you want to also have like something like they made new suits for the 2 like protector women. It's just too many things, man, and the movie is a little too long. And I just wasn't that crazy about it. I didn't really like the setup of Namor. I thought it was really stupid how they changed the origin of it to just be like, oh, they were Mayan people that like drank a potion and started to breathe underwater and created like a society underwater, but they also have access to vibranium, which causes problems when Wakanda is withholding its vibranium. They go to like a UN meeting and they try to like justify this, like, oh, well, we just don't trust you, anybody else with the vibranium. And it's like, yeah, but they don't like trust you with the vibranium. Like you're here being like, oh, this is a very powerful substance. We're saying that it's very powerful. And it's like, it's kind of understandable that they would be like, yeah, so I don't know that like anybody, like why do we like just let you guys have it? I don't know. It's like I don't know. It kind of makes sense. And then the queen is like, well, you guys snuck in and tried to kill us. Like, she points out the French people sent soldiers in to like kill them and steal vibranium, and they're like, so you're not allowed to talk about it. We're gonna keep the vibranium. And then so in response, the Americans, are looking for vibranium elsewhere, and they find there's some underwater. And then they get attacked by the submariners. I don't know what they're called, the Mayans. They have like a city that's named something else. I'm pretty sure in the comics, I feel like it's just called Atlantis in the comics, but like it's understandably a little too similar to Aquaman. I think Aquaman's like city is also called Atlantis. So maybe they were just trying to like distance this from Aquaman. It's like, it's not Aquaman. It's a different thing. But like, I didn't really care for the Submariner portrayal in this. I thought he was like kind of lame. Like, the Submariner is actually a comic book. In the comic books, I actually really like him. He's actually one of my favorite characters because he's just kind of a selfish prick. He's just an asshole. He's very petty and just very selfish. Almost coming off as childish a lot of the time, and just kind of like doing what he wants. He doesn't care for the surface world, because he's not one of them. So he's just like, will kill people, will cause havoc, doesn't really care about preserving society or doing good. He's just like, he's a force of nature. He causes destruction. He just doesn't care. And he's fun, mostly because of how much of an asshole he is. I think he's an entertaining guy, because he's like he's not really an anti-hero. He's kind of just a dick, and that's just fun. It's just a fun character to have around. I feel like, and this portrayal of him is just not it's not it, man. It's not the guy that I feel. He's just a little more like, Will, I'm I don't know. He's just a boring character, man. He was just boring in this. They set up Riri Williams, and it's like, the main thing is I just don't care. Just like I feel like they're trying to get me to care about something, but what is this? She's like just another super genius that just creates an Iron Man suit. And it's like, okay, but like, why is she like more interesting or different in any way? I also thought it was weird how, like, the plot line was very much relied on Wakanda deciding to protect her and keep her safe, because, like, literally the whole plot is that Namor, he starts a war with Wakanda purely because they're like, he's like, just give me the inventor girl so that we can kill her, so that they can't use her like knowledge and technology to find their vibranium city. They're like, just hand her over. And Wakanda's like, no, we'd rather go to war and put our own people in danger to protect this girl that's like not one of us. It just feels like very not Wakandian, It's like they're very insular. They care about their own people. They're selfish, They like, they're isolationists. They just don't like care about the outside world at all, right? And it's like, why are they putting their entire society, nation in jeopardy over this random person that they have no real reason to care about? I just was like, it's just like this weird, I don't really get that, like, why they would care. I mean, it's just like trying to be like, oh, well, they're good people. Like, they care about lives. And I'm like, do they? Like, do they care about this person's life over their entire society, the lives of their own people? Like, people die because of this decision. Their own people die because of this decision, and they just are, like, adamant about it. It's like, I don't get it. Why would they do that? Yeah, I don't know. Basically, Black Panther 2 wasn't super crazy about it. I liked that the daughter sister is the new Black Panther. I'm kind of cool with that. That was fine. That whole build up, I feel like that was kind of the heart of the film. So I feel like it's the storyline that gets the most attention, and the most dedication to. So that plot line really works out very well. The rest of them just, even though the movie's really long, I feel like there's a lot of inconsistencies between how the Namorian society acts. Just kind of like, I don't know. They're just like, let's kill this girl. Like, they could have just captured her. But they're like, no, we have to kill her. And they like decide to go to war. And then he also decides at the end of the movie, he's like, no, we're not going to go to, even though he says we're going to war, and their whole society cheers because they're like, he's the one that's like keeping them from this. He's the one that's like standing in their way because they're like ready. And it's like you think he's just going to like come back and be like, oh, never mind. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to be allies. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's chill. That's chill. No, I feel like his society's going to like collapse. You know, like people are just going to like riot. They're going to be pissed off because they've been riled up, you know? And we don't really get to see a lot of the natural people. There is a scene. Oh, wait, no, there was another thing that was set up in this. There's like some random new lady that they, or no, she's not new. I think she was the girlfriend of Chadwick Boseman, the original Black Panther, T'Challa, in the first movie, I think. And she's like, she comes back and saves the girl. I think her name's like Shari or something. I'm not confident saying the name, but I'm gonna look it up. Shuri. Her name's Shuri. Okay, that is the name then. Yeah. So, I basically knew the name. Okay. What was I saying? Yeah, she goes and saves Shuri from like the underwater city, and kills one of the like attendants there. One of the like sort of just an innocent civilian, just shoots her. And Shuri's like, no, we have to save her, or else this is gonna cause a problem. And she's like, no, it's too late. She's gonna die. And it's like this is what incites the whole them just deciding to we're going to war now, right? And it's like, yeah, but maybe she should have tried to help. Maybe she shouldn't have shot that girl. Like, I don't know. This is all very reckless and a little irresponsible. There's like no reason to kill the attendant because she's like doesn't have a weapon or anything. He just shoots her. And it's like this sad thing that the Atlanteans are like pissed off about, of course. So it's like, why did that was just kind of like a little too convenient for the plot, and it didn't really like come together very well, I feel like. And it's also like saying that without them killing that person, they would have been like, the Atlanteans would have been way too nice about it. Like, I think they would have gone to war anyways, you know? Like they were already saying like, hey, he literally starts with like, if you don't give over this girl, Riri Williams, we are going to go to war and we're going to destroy your society. Like, he already said that. Like, we didn't need the additional like, oh well, they're doing it but they're like right about it in a little because they killed one of their people, so it's they're right about it, I guess. Maybe it's just trying to make these characters seem somewhat sympathetic later, like, oh, we can come back and bring this and maybe like have a redemption arc for Submariner or something. Namor, he's like, oh, he's not just like a piece of shit, but I don't know. It's a problem, you know? It's like way too much setup. That's all Phase 5 was setup, but none of it was like particularly interesting. I feel like I kind of have a vague idea of where they're going, I think, in terms of the comic books and the things that they've set up. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do think like the multiverse is becoming important, mostly because I think they want to bring in more Spider-Man properties. Specifically, I think there's going to be a big thing to do with the Venom symbiote, and so they want to bring Venom in, and they're just doing it in this multiversal way to set up for the big event, which I think is very much based off of a recent Marvel comic event. I won't be more specific than that, and it also ties into the plotline of Thor: Love and Thunder very specifically. So I think that's where it's mostly going. Obviously, we're doing Kang. I mean, that's not even a secret. We're doing Kang, everybody's favorite villain. Kang's cool. I just don't know if he's cool enough to like. He's not gonna outshadow Infinity War, I feel like, is just the thing. I don't see him doing that. But maybe he will. I mean, maybe that movie will be cool. Who knows? Out of all the movies, the new movies coming out, I don't know which ones I'm gonna care about. Let me look up Phase 6. Sorry, I got the phase numbers wrong. I was talking about this recent one was Phase 4. I also didn't mention Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi was, again, also kind of underwhelming to me. Phase 5 starts with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I feel like that one might be fun. That one might be fun. I'm kind of excited for that. Guardians 3, I'm excited for. The rest, I just don't know. I mean, Thunderbolts, maybe. Blade could be cool. Thunderbolts, maybe. But I don't know enough about it right now. Thunderbolts is, in the comics, it was a team of not really, like, good people, but a team under Thunderbolt Ross, who's the general that's constantly chasing after the Hulk. General Ross, right? That's his name? I think so. Who obviously... Should I spoil? That's like public knowledge, right? That he's the... Okay, I won't spoil it. Okay. But he creates, like, a team of, like, not really, like, generally good people. But, yeah, kind of like a Suicide Squad sort of situation. Yeah, so that might be interesting, I think, just because the concept is interesting. I don't know about Captain America 4. Is that Captain America 4? Yeah, because Civil War was technically Captain America 3, I think. So, Captain America 4, I don't know. I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier and just wasn't, like, blown away by the possibilities. I don't know. Maybe. I feel like the Marvels is the weirdest sell on the list because you've got Captain Marvel, which was a kind of a disappointing film. You've got Miss Marvel. People seem to like Miss Marvel. I thought Miss Marvel also had some really dumb plot lines, especially the villains were just terrible. And yeah, I don't know. I won't talk that much more about it, I guess. So I don't know if I'm like crazy about the character or anything. So it's like I don't know if I care specifically about the Marvels. They're also introducing a third character. I had to look this up to remember who this was. But basically the daughter of Kara Danvers, is that her name? Or is that Supergirl? I always mix up Supergirl and Kara Danvers is Supergirl. Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel. Comic books very much copy off each other, very much, all the time. Okay? So it's, gets confusing. So, yeah, but her, like, friend in the Captain Marvel movie, has, like, a daughter. This daughter appears in WandaVision and gets powers in WandaVision. She's that one... she's like an FBI agent or something in that, and she gets superpowers in WandaVision. If you were like, that was weird, who is that? That was Carol Danvers' friend's daughter, who has superpowers now. She's one of the Marvels. She also appears in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, in like that scene where they show all the multiverse people. The Illuminati, I believe. She's the Captain Marvel that appears there. So, yeah, she's the third billing. So it's the Marvels. It's Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and whatever that character's name is. It's all three of them. But I don't know like what they're gonna do with this movie. Like none of these characters have. I guess Captain Marvel and the like new Marvel character girl. But Captain Marvel hasn't met Miss Marvel, so I suppose it's going to be like partly some sort of setup there of them to like meet and work together. But they're also on like extraordinarily different power levels, so I don't know how they're going to make that work. I don't know. It just seems like the weirdest concept for like one of the movies here. I don't know what the plan is there. Maybe it'll be okay. Who knows? But yeah, that's Phase 5. I will say that the Disney Plus offerings have been generally better, I think, than a lot of the movies that have come out. I liked WandaVision. I liked Loki a lot. A little disappointed by Moon Knight. Not really crazy about Miss Marvel or She-Hulk. In fact, I might even say She-Hulk was just bad. What If was weird. Oh, Hawkeye was good. Hawkeye I liked. But I heard a lot of people didn't like Hawkeye, which was weird to me. I liked Hawkeye. Hawkeye was fun. Yeah, I guess we're done talking about this. It felt very similar to me as Thor Love and Thunder. It's just like it didn't really come together to me as like really good, exciting movie. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. The last thing I have here that I just kind of watched on a whim because I saw it on Netflix is a movie called The Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker. This is a documentary based around a guy that went viral as part of a news story. He's basically a hitchhiker that like saved two women because he happened to be wielding a hatchet, happened to have a hatchet on him, and there was like a bad guy attacking them, and he saved them by whacking this guy in the head with a hatchet. Just a crazy news story, and the guy was like really eccentric, and so the clip went viral. He became famous. A lot of the story is about. I will say I don't remember this story at all. It reminded me a lot of the he's climbing in your windows guy. It reminded me of that. It's kind of a similar concept, but I don't remember this one. I think it was like 2013, and it just I missed that one. I missed the trend on that one. But I watched it, and a lot of it is about these people trying to like, I suppose, profit off of him. And they're like, you could be famous. You're like so cool and talented, and everybody loves you. And like, we put him on Jimmy Fallon, but he was such an eccentric guy that he would just like pee on the walls and just be disrespectful and not care. And he rode a skateboard into a restaurant and he got them kicked out of a hotel. And they were just like, he was hard to work with. So we weren't able to get rich with him and make him rich. He didn't seem to care about money either way. He was just kind of like a free spirit, I suppose. But he's a really eccentric guy. After his internet virality, a lot of people like allowed him would like hang out with him and give him a place to stay and all of this, and it really helped him out. But he got into some trouble, basically. They were trying to, in the documentary, the interesting thing about the documentary, I think, is that it doesn't really take much in the way of a side on the whole thing. It just kind of gives you information and like says, all right, well, come to your own conclusions about it. But part of it is that he claims like the documentary tries to set him up as like a bit of a liar. And so a lot of the things that he says, you can't really take, you have to kind of take with a grain of salt. You can't really be sure of if he's telling the truth on everything that he says or not. And there's one story in particular where he claims to be abused as a child, which we find out is at least partially true, because he describes it as having been kept in a cage for his childhood, and he says things like he was forced to watch his parents have sex and something like that and stuff like that, which that part of it might not be true at all. So you know, he may have a habit of hyperbolizing his storylines in a way. But basically, they interview the mother, and they also interview like a cousin of his who seems to back up his story, at least partially again. But the mother is like, you know, she describes the situation like, yeah, we kind of had to like put bars on his windows because he kept trying to like climb out the windows and like get into trouble outside, and we were just like worried about him. And it does seem like the way that the like you see him in this, he does seem like the type of guy that just does that. He just does crazy shit all the time, and he gets himself into trouble. He just doesn't have like good ability to like figure out what's socially acceptable, and he just doesn't care. I think he just doesn't care. So it's like I believe that he would like do that, and he would escape and just get into trouble constantly. And she says like, yeah, we did that, but it was like temporary thing, and it was just like bars on the windows, just to like keep him from, climbing out the windows all the time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I am qualified to speak on whether the story is true or not, but the documentary seems to establish, like, I don't know. I don't want to pass like judgment on this stuff. It's not really up to me to do that. But that's sort of the whole thing, is they set him up to be like, well, he lies constantly, all the time about a lot of things. And there's certain things that were like not fully revealed to, especially in the case of that guy who he hit with the hatchet. They claim that, well, when he went to go testify on the stand, there was also a mention. I mean, I don't know if this was like known, but he was like riding with the guy in the car, and they claim that he was possibly drugged by Hatchet guy. What's his name? Let me look up the name, damn it. Caleb McGilvery. That guy. There was a claim that he drugged the guy that attacked the women. I think there was also a claim that he was sexually assaulted by the guy. There's like a bunch of stuff like that he claimed happened. But then it comes down to this murder case, and basically wasn't a murder case, but there's a murder case later on where it's very clear that Caleb is the one that killed this person. Basically, it was a guy who had the police found his Caleb's number in his like house, and they were able to find CCTV footage of them meeting together at a train station. Or a subway or something. I think it was a train station. And they determined that Caleb had killed this guy. But the story was weird. Basically, Caleb had left like a Facebook post, basically to his community, I guess. Basically being like, if somebody sexually assaulted you, what would you do? And people were like, I'd get out my hatchet and I'd slash him. Whack, 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 right? Like the meme. And this was also used as evidence. He's like, I like the way you think. That was his reply. And so this was all used as evidence that he went and just murdered this guy. But it seemed like there was no evidence of the assault actually happening, or that it was an assault. They weren't able to prove that one way or another. So it's kind of left unclear. But the weird thing about it was that after he claims the assault happened, he then goes and meets with the guy again, which is, they're like, that's kind of a weird thing to do, meet with the guy and stay at his house again, like ask to stay at his house again after that happened to you. And like you're seen meeting with him at the train station after he claims that happened. So it was just like a whole series of like weird events. And I think the last piece of evidence was like, they saw no evidence of a struggle, I think, or, they determined that Caleb probably was very easily able to overpower this guy, or like snuck up on him, and no assault really happened there, even though he claims an assault happened again. And that's when he just started to defend himself, but they have no evidence that that's what happens. It doesn't really make sense, I guess, with the evidence that they have. They're like, there's not really any struggle here. Yeah, it's just weird. The movie just throws a bunch of weird facts at you, and it's like, this is just how life goes. I guess you just don't really know exactly what happened, and so that's kind of where it leaves it, which is weird. It's not like how I'm used to watching documentaries, which feels, I guess feels a little stranger now that, a lot of documentaries do seem to want you to think one way or another about a thing. They seem to be like conclusive in a lot of ways. I'm thinking of like, I guess like Tiger King, I guess like Making a Murderer, definitely like took a stance whereas this one doesn't really take a stance. It just like gives you the information, and it's like, this is what happens. Isn't this a weird story? It's not the craziest story in the world. It's just that the guy himself, Caleb, is a really strange person. And that's about it. And he just got himself into trouble. I don't know if it's the most interesting movie in the world, but obviously it's just a real life. It's just real events. And yeah, he's in jail now. So the story is about like this guy who used to be a viral sensation, becoming a murderer. And it's a true story. It's pretty wild conceptually, but yeah. It was a decent watch. It was an interesting watch. But I'm kind of left with more questions than answers, really. Which I guess is probably better. I suppose with a documentary, it's like, we don't have the whole story. That's just how life is. So, yeah, I kind of just explained everything that happens in the documentary, but maybe I didn't explain it well. Maybe I made some mistakes there. So if you want to watch it, it's all right. It's a decent time. And with this, I'm actually going to end. I do have one more thing, but I'm gonna save it for the next video, which actually feels kind of counterproductive with breaking up, it into 3 things instead of 4. But it just feels like I feel more confident about doing it that way. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Let me know what you thought about this, if you agreed or disagreed with any of my opinions. I'd be interested to know. You can also suggest things if you want me to watch something. I've got stuff planned. I will end the video by basically telling you what I'm planning on watching in the future. Puss in Boots, I still haven't seen. I'm waiting for it to, like, it's on, I think I can purchase it on Amazon for like $25, but I'm just not, like, I don't know if it's worth it to pay that much money to watch it. Maybe I'll just wait for it to, like, become free on a streaming service or something. There's Velma. I will be talking about Velma against my better judgment. I will be discussing it. Actually, those episodes might already have aired, so maybe I can already talk about that. I might have a video coming really quickly, because then there's also The Legend of Vox Machina, which I think has, should be ending soon if it hasn't already ended. That's season 2 of Vox Machina. I'm going to talk about that as well. Last of Us on HBO. This is a new show, which has been pretty interesting so far. Pretty good. I think there's like 4 or 5 episodes out. Waiting for that to finish, and then I'll talk about it. The Whale. I want to watch The Whale. It's a Brendan Fraser film that my sister was like talking about. So I'll probably watch that. Megan, I haven't seen yet. Vinland Saga season 2. That's an anime. I'll probably talk about that. Oh, Trigun. I skipped over Trigun Stampede. There's like a new sort of reboot of Trigun, which is an old 90s anime. And I think I'm going to talk about that because I've been watching that. That's pretty good. Vinland Saga, like I said, season 2. Pretty good so far. You, season 5? I think season 4 or 5 of You is out. So half of it is out. And I will be discussing that as it finishes. Okay, this is the 4th movie I was gonna do, but I'm gonna do it next episode. I think it's a movie called You People with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. Pretty interesting film. At first, I was like, should I even? I don't know. Should I talk about that? Because I feel like it's so embedded in like, black culture and that sort of thing. And it's a lot of heavy societal topics. And so I was like, originally, I'm like, I don't know if I should talk about that. I don't know if it's fair for me to like review a movie like that, but I think I can talk about it. I think I will do that next thing. Jeepers Creepers Rebirth. I don't know why, but I saw that this is on Hulu, and so I'm like probably gonna watch it. But I think it came out like last year sometime. So I might watch that. That'll be kind of like a weird throwback though. Sonic Frontiers is the first game that I think I'm going to do just because I finished Sonic Frontiers. And, yeah, so I will talk about that one. And I think that's about it. That's all I've got really planned at the moment for stuff that's, like, out or airing. So that's it. I'm going to end the video there. So look forward to that stuff if you want. When it ends, I will do the discussion. So, yeah. Goodbye.